Welcome. Maybe your third favorite sports show. I hope we're in your at least top five. There's a lot of sports shows. I hope this is your top five. I hope this is your top five. Leftish. For no good reason. There really is no good reason. My name is Jason Miles. I am your host for another episode of Beyond Red Zone. This is my get hype music. It goes in my head every time before I go do a show. This goes in my head. So this is what. Right? Feel that? So excited for the show today. Wow! All right. Let's do it. I'll be a little more serious now. Sadly, Mac will not be joining me tonight. Mac is having some nerve issues from some of his injuries that he suffered as a soldier for years. So he can't make it tonight. And that's a bummer because I know he would have a lot to add to this show. But that's okay. I am here with the people. And I'm sure you guys will have a lot to say. I mean, we're talking about quarterbacks. Everybody has so much to say about busts. So-and-so's a bust. I'm tired of that narrative. Talked a little bit about it last night on the sports betting show with Clark Randall. And I thought that was a really good show. It's not a traditional sports show, but if you guys have some issues with sports betting, there's people that have made comments about sports betting. Check out the show we did with Clark Randall last night. Let's make sports betting taboo again. I really like Clark's perspective. Here it comes. Comes that riff again. Here it comes. Oh shit. Love this song. I really do. Is that bad? I give a shit. Wow. But did you guys see that there's a Puffy documentary? And did you see what channel it's coming out on? Tubi. Because if it's not Tubi, it's not Tubi. That last one's for free, Tubi. You can reach me at booking at thisisrevolutionpodcast.com. But seriously, there's a Puffy. He's only been arraigned. It's just going to be hearsay. And fake, and like people that were never there, like my cousin, like they're going to talk with this veil of anonymity, like they're going to black out their faces and disguise their voice with, I was on a Puffy party. I was the person that supplied the baby oil. I had to rub the butts of all the sex worker men. That's what it's going to be. And you know what is even more sad? I'm going to watch it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna make popcorn and I'm gonna fucking watch it. I am. That's the sad part. So I got done with the show Tuesday. And when I get done with the show, then I have to dump the episode, set it up for the audio podcast and all the stuff you guys don't care about. It takes a minute. I got done. I walked into my living room. And I turned on the television, which is just like a smart TV. All I have is the internet. So just all I really do is just put YouTube on a bigger fucking screen. I don't know if that's better for my mental well-being. But anyway, the first thing that came up, it was like this guy on this, there's this law channel that I follow because sometimes they have some interesting stuff and they have like footage I can take for video essays. And on this law channel, they had this guy that I got arrested for like shooting up, not Mar-a-Lago, maybe it was Mar-a-Lago, but he shot up some Trump property. And when the police were interrogating him, they're like, hey, why the fuck did you shoot up this property? And he's like, Sean Puffy Combs? And the cop's like, the rapper P. Diddy? He goes, yes, P. Diddy. He goes, I was the sex slave for P. Diddy, and I had sex with Cassie. This was in 2018. This is before all this shit came out. And the cops are like, what? What? And the guy's just trying to tell him about Puffy shit. And it sounds crazy. And like I've said on the show before, I've heard a lot of Puffy rumors for a long time, especially as like the gay sex stuff. I've heard Jesus since the early 2000s. I've heard that. But you never know how true that stuff is. But this guy's kind of interesting. So I sat there and watched this entire interrogation. Most of it was the ramblings of a man battling what sounds like a severe addiction to methamphetamine. And he hasn't slept in some time. But as a person that lived with someone with that addiction for my entire childhood and also worked with people that dealt with that, there's always these nuggets of truth they throw out in all of the insanity. So him talking about the Puffy sex parties, he gets pretty in depth about who he was fucking and what Puffy was doing. And the way he says it, it's not funny even if it's not true, I shouldn't laugh. But the way he like described it, it I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the guy's like, so I would have to have sex with Cassie, Puffy's girlfriend. He goes, Cassie? And the cop's like, we don't know what you're talking about. And the guy's like, well, she's a famous singer. And he's like, well, I had to have sex with her. And while I was having sex with Cassie, Puffy would stand and just jack off on the side. Now, that's some weird shit to have happen. That is weird. I promise I will talk about sports today because the reason why I'm live right now and just didn't cancel the show because Mac was sick. I wrote a really good introduction. I was so proud of it. So I will, but I don't know why. Like right before I went to get ready for the show, I saw that this Tubi documentary, they sent me an email. Of course they sent me an email. They're like, Jason, our most valued subscriber. The guy that watches all these 90s movies we don't know why we carry. The guy saying Puffy's just jerking off and taking business calls. And I was like, wow. Because he was like talking about Puffy's business and rappers' business. And then he went into like this Illuminati. He goes, Puffy's part of a secret organization. It's called the Boule. For those Black people watching, that's what that laugh track was for. It's not a secret organization. And the white guy is talking. So it's always like on these things, it's not just you're watching a naked interrogation. Watching the interrogation, there's a show host, and then there's a cop, an ex-cop, who has nothing to do with anything. But he's there because he's supposed to be an expert on copness. Now, cops usually aren't good at cop shit. Like there's no magical cop school that cops go to like learn things that are like the truth. It's like instinct and hunches, right? My favorite thing is when we talk about great detective work. Great detective work. Officer McGillicuddy is great detective work. When they caught the Night Stalker, who was a pretty frightening individual, to this day, I'm 47 years old. I still get chills and a little frightened whenever a Night Stalker thing comes on. My back itches. Because I remember being a little kid and you had to lock your windows, and I was just terrified. He was just going and random people's windows, and he was going in bad neighborhoods. He's killing the shit out of kids, babies. We didn't know for years later that he had molested an untold amount of children. Didn't kill him, but still, it's pretty vile. Pretty vile what he did. So when to catch him, they beat up a family. I think it was his cousin. And they say this in the documentary. Yeah, we beat him up. They don't say beat him up. I think they say they hit him. I don't believe it was just like one hit. Should have roughed him up pretty good. And he gave him up. It's usually snitches and police brutality. You can get a lot with snitches and police brutality. I'll tell you anything you want to know to keep you from fucking me up. I'm not finna get lumped up for fucking Ray Reid. He did it. Don't trust them new niggas over there. Just kidding. But seriously. So this dude is just going all in on how rappers are transporting drugs. He goes, Puffy would take this MDMA, or he goes in this liquid cocaine. He goes, I think Puffy had an addiction to it. And he's talking about Puffy just walking around jerking off, doing business calls. Whoa. That's strange. I'm not going to lie and say I don't try to multitask. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not part of the neoliberal machine that wants to maximize every minute of the day, because I feel like I have to keep this thing running called TIR. And then sometimes I catch myself and I go, wait a minute, this is fucking insane. Calm down. Never do I think to squeeze out a good jerk off in between show shit. Like, that's the last thing that crosses my mind. If I even had that opportunity, show shit would have to stop. And then I'd have to just go, terrorize meat. Not tenderize, terrorize. Terrorize. But that's the last thing I'm thinking about when I'm booking shows, I'm replying back to emails professionally, right? I'm communicating with Pascal and Tucson. Can you imagine how weird that would be? We're having our group call about the show, production meeting, and I'm just sitting there fucking, slapping ham. Don't mind me. Look away. Just look away. Yeah, who's coming on next Tuesday? It's fine. Don't mind me. Stress reliever. It's better than a stress ball. Stress balls. But seriously, that's some weird shit. And dude was like, yeah, I know all about the rappers' business, and rappers transport cocaine on their private planes because they don't have to go through that thing. What's it called? And the cops go, customs? He goes, yeah, that's it. And I'm watching that, and I'm watching it. Cracking the fuck up. Because I really can't get over the fact that Puffy is just beating meat. Because you know why? Yes, the baby oil. So I have this horrible picture in my head of this oiled up fucking greasy ass man with a curl face, with a curl taper and a gold chain, just fucking slapping ham all over the house. Vince McMahon too. Like, these people that have reached certain heights of success. Oh. Part of me isn't shocked. Right? I've been around people that, like, you could be, when signed my deal with fucking Means TV. I was like, let's go celebrate. Everybody wants to celebrate their success, but I just can't think to make you have sex with my girlfriend while I'm just fucking bait in the corner and then take business calls. Or in Vince McMahon's situation, take a hot fucking shit on someone and then just keep going. Ew. Ew, ew, ew. Ew. I mean, just stop. Or do it before, maybe? I don't know. I don't know. Does that come with success? This need to want to just be a massive piece of shit? And at what level of success are you just a massive piece of shit? I just want to know. Is anyone in the lefty podcast world, you think, a massive piece of shit? Like who's the biggest? That didn't sound right considering the conversation. But seriously, who's I can't picture anyone I know in this world that has a decent amount of success even thinking to be that massive of a piece of shit. Jesus. Tell us Ben stories, Jay. There are none. There are none. There's more Jay stories that I cannot tell you. They were making fun of me at the bar on Monday night about some Jay stories that I definitely can't tell you people. Oh, sometimes I kind of want to, then I'm like, oh God, no, don't tell those people that shit. Someone says Katrina. I can see that, but I can't see him taking a shit on somebody. Maybe some weird stuff. Like people dressed in like period costumes, like 17th century garb, but with no pants. I could see that. Like the fancy wigs and stuff, but just no pants. Not quite Eyes Wide Shut, kind of like Eyes Wide Shut meets Monty Python or something. But I can't. Dude, I'm gonna watch the Puffy thing. I'm gonna watch the Puffy thing, and I know it's gonna be stupid, right? I put a post on Twitter for like, the clip of the day that is up, and I saw this person had put a thread about Puffy, and I thought it was going to be like some like I was at the parties and this is what I know, but it was just a collection of hearsay. And that's probably what this documentary is going to be, a collection of hearsay. Like there's this guy that says he was a bodyguard or something for Puffy, and he heard Puffy just fucking reaming out Meek Mill, and he goes, I put my phone to the door and I recorded it. And I asked Puffy for money, and Puffy didn't pay me. So now this stuff is out. So I'm gonna let you guys hear this. Somebody pay me for this audio. And I don't know if it's real. It was making the rounds a few months ago. It sounds brutal. Whatever it is, it just sounds brutal. I'm sure it's not real. And that's what this documentary is going to be. It's going to be just really brutal hearsay. Maybe somebody that has nothing to do with the trial. That's some celebrity reporter talking about trials transcripts say, or like the indictment transcripts say. What do they say? I don't care. I want to know, like, fucking, you were at the party, you were applying the baby oil, you saw it all, like the guy that got fucking busted. I was talking about being a weird stud. Someone says, who admits to extortion? Jimmy Dore probably pays dwarves to kick him in the nuts while they call him smart. Wow. I don't know that guy. You know, he might be one of those fucking dudes that likes to get kicked in the nuts by dwarves. I don't know. Maybe get his nuts stomped on by somebody in a real uncomfortable outfit. Maybe. I think he's probably pretty vanilla. I'm sure he has sex, once an equinox and fucking, is not good at it. I don't know. I shouldn't talk shit about that guy. I don't know him. Don't care to. Don't care to. But I will say he doesn't get busted like this, because none of us have that kind of money. Who has that kind of money to pay for that many fucking prostitutes and have a team of sex workers at your beck and call? Oof, that's expensive. That sounds tiring. Also, very tiring. Let's talk about sports now. I didn't realize we've been talking this long about Puffy. I'm so sorry. Let's talk about sports. I promised. Watching an NFL pregame show today feels less like a breakdown of the upcoming contests and more like an exercise in odds makers reducing the game's strategy to betting talk. Fantasy sports have long been the gateway drug into the sports betting app economy. Now, sports punditry mimics the shock jock antics of the 90s, turning analysis into a hyper commercialized spectacle of hot or not takes. Let's consider the legendary 1983 draft class. Hall of Famers, including 3 elite quarterbacks, emerged from that round. Yet, how many Super Bowls did they collectively win? Does anyone know? Anyone? Anyone? The quarterbacks of that class? Anyone? 2. Just 2. Both by John Elway. Dan Marino, arguably one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time, appeared in a single Super Bowl after obliterating passing records in 1984, an era where the run game was king. Yet despite Marino's historic success, his classmate Dickerson would never touch a Super Bowl trophy either, even after setting an NFL record for rushing yards in a season. And isn't that a testament to kind of how awesome that 83 class was? Marino and Dickerson in their second years, their sophomore seasons, and they both had really good rookie years. I forget who won Rookie of the Year that year. I think it was Dickerson. They blow up the record books. Dickerson goes for 2103, and the Rams lose, I believe, to the Niners in the NFC Championship game. And Marino throws for 5,000 yards and breaks the touchdown record. That's insane. And that record stood forever. Second year. Only went to that one Super Bowl. Now imagine these legendary players in today's era where success is too often framed through the lens of fantasy sports and app-based betting. Could they withstand the media's hunger for instant success or survive the ruthless churn of the 24-hour sports news cycle? Take the 2024 season. Players once written off as busts are starting to rewrite their stories. Malik Willis, discarded as an afterthought in Tennessee, is showing flashes of brilliance. Sam Darnold, written off in New York and quickly traded, has found new life as a backup turned starter. Jared Goff, shipped off to Detroit as a disappointment, has led the Lions to NFC North contention. In the pre-fantasy sports world, these players would have had time to grow into their roles, but today's instant gratification culture has no room for slow-burning talent. Pundits already labeled the 2024 first overall pick, Caleb Williams, a bust after just 3 games. Bryce Young, last year's first pick, faced the same brutal criticism even before his rookie season ended. Compare that to the 83 draft class, who were given time to play through rookie mistakes and eventually lead teams to playoffs, even Super Bowls. But in this hyper commercialized, short term focused environment, teams cut bait on young talent before it has time to develop, driven by media narratives and the endless thirst for immediate returns. Sports betting and fantasy leagues have fueled this culture of rapid turnover. It's no longer about team building or long term development. The market dictates which players are valuable, not for their contributions on the field, but for how well they perform against the betting line or in fantasy stats. In our current epoch, we want what we want when we want it with little patience for process or growth. Has this commodification of athletes killed player development? I ask all of you. Um, I I look at this. We talked about this a little bit on the sports show. There's a real, I don't even want to say, what have you done for me lately? Like McKinsey way to look at sports. There's so much analysis that goes into metrics than actually watching the game is a dead scene. And everybody wants to be an analyst. You know, what coverage are they in? What's going on? What are they audibling to? And even that, there's still a lot that goes into that. If you look at, I don't know how much college you guys watch. If you watch the college game, even if you're running a hurry up system, which a lot of these guys, everything's a hybrid at this point in college. There's like a couple concepts, and everything's a hybrid of those concepts. So offense in college football to me is pretty even across the board. But when you see these guys get to the line of scrimmage, most of the quarterbacks are doing it from the shotgun or maybe the pistol. By the time they set, especially if they have time on the clock and it's a young quarterback, I don't know if you guys watched the USC Michigan game. And Michigan, I don't know if he was a true freshman or a redshirt freshman. They were starting a young quarterback who I didn't think was very good at all. He actually was pretty horrible. Every time he got to the line of scrimmage, he's looking over at the sideline because he doesn't understand the coverage that's in front of him, and he's waiting for the coach to tell him what to do. That changes in the NFL. There's people in your head. You understand what you're supposed to see. You should understand what you're supposed to see. But we also have to kind of keep in mind that these kids have been playing the game at a high level. We've been telling them how wonderful they are, and they're winning awards, sometimes Heisman trophies, and all these scouts are saying this guy's here because he can do A, B, C, and D. And then you look over and they're constantly going, what do I do now? I see the thing. Uh-oh. Whatever read you had given me, I think they've taken that away. And there's also big differences in college too, because you can defeat your man sometimes by just power. Sometimes you're just physically that much stronger, better, faster than the person you're guarding in college. The level of competition is just so different. How many games a year do even elite teams play against equally elite competition? Not as much. It's just not financially feasible for them to do that. So, and you can kind of stockpile talent in college. They have bigger rosters. The transfer portal has made that a little bit more difficult, but there's a lot of talent stockpiling that goes on in college sports as well. So there's a big difference between those games. So I don't think that necessarily sometimes you see kids that just don't have it between the ears, as they say. It's just a learning process. If we look at the 83 quarterback or the 83 draft, first round, we won't look at late round picks. I don't know if there's any late round picks from that year off the top of my head that became starters. I'm sure there was people that did some spot starting, but I don't think there's any starters. But Elway, Jim Kelly, Even though Kelly plays in the USFL, the Bills did draft him. They had the rights to him. Elway, Jim Kelly, Todd Blackledge, Tony Eason, Ken O'Brien, Dan Marino. It's a hell of a quarterback draft. And there's tons of other players that were Hall of Famers that year, too. I told you, Eric Dickerson came out that year. Darrell Green came out that year. Dan Mosbar came out that year. There's a bunch of players that came out that year. Bruce Matthews came out that year. So tons of Hall of Famers on both sides of the ball come out in 83 in just the first round. And there's more in the later rounds. I think Roger Craig comes out in like the third round or something like that. So, if you think about those 5 guys, Elway's first year was a nightmare. By the time Jim Kelly gets to the NFL, the Bills are horrible. And he's just getting his head beat in. Todd Blackledge, I would be surprised if anyone remembers his pro career. Tony Eason got to a Super Bowl with the Patriots in his 3rd season. But Ron Meyer never really liked Tony Eason, and they shipped him off to, was it New York? Where did he get? I think he got shipped off to New York. So he wasn't, I think by the 89 or something. And then he was out of football soon after that. Kenny O'Brien had a pretty decent career. He never lost to Dan Marino. Did you know that? And he's a local boy from Northern California. But it took some time for those guys to develop, and they didn't play during a 24-hour media cycle like we have now. So, and then there was Dan Marino's success wasn't how John Elway was judged. Wasn't how Jim Kelly is judged, which is interesting to me because we judge everybody off the success of the previous people. Like RG3 and Andrew Luck had 2 really entertaining rookie seasons, and I thought those 2 guys were going to be the next iteration of like Brady Manning, where you'd see 2 great quarterbacks lead teams into the playoffs to be facing each other in these tough games. And we didn't get that because poor Robert Griffin, RG3, sadly gets his knee blown up. And the team goes, you can play on it. You're fine. Just wear a brace. Man was never the same. And then there's some coaching issues. People forget Kirk Cousins comes out in that draft. He was drafted in like the 4th round as a just in case. RG3 was, man, what a magical rookie year that guy had. It felt like he could do it all. And he's done. Andrew Luck brought the Colts back to prominence. But he's like, you know what I'd rather have? My brains. And these guys were looked at as like, these are definitive number 1 picks. You can't go wrong with 1 or 2. And after that, Cam Newton has a phenomenal rookie year. Go back and look at the numbers of Cam Newton's rookie year. Insane. I think he had like back-to-back 400-yard passing games. They lost both those games, I believe. But he put up crazy numbers. Not everybody's going to do that. That's not the norm. That 2-year run, we should have looked at it and been like, man, this is one of the best 2-year runs we've ever seen for like young guys coming to the league and just balling out. NFL defenses make adjustments really quickly, and the game will change, and you're going to have to adapt. And Newton got hurt, and the Super Bowl, I think, really messed him up. But when you think about like the Jared Goff and Carson Wentz year, when they were supposed to be 1-1A, and everybody was so high on Carson Wentz, the year the Eagles beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, Carson Wentz was the starter. And I think they were undefeated. If not, they might have had 1 loss when he goes down with the season-ending injury. and Nick Foles takes over. And Nick Foles wasn't trash when he played. He just wasn't the first round pick. Nick Foles coming out of Arizona didn't have the biggest numbers, but if you watched him play college football, you're like, this guy could probably be a really good pro. And for a time he was. He played in Chip Kelly's system in Philadelphia. And I think he threw for 7 touchdowns against the Raiders. Not a preseason game. It was a regular season game. But people just like, oh, he doesn't have it. And he would get shipped around to be kind of a bridge quarterback, they call him now. Like, well, you can be the starter until we draft the guy of the future. And maybe when we draft the guy of the future, he can hold a clipboard for a season while you can make another starter's check. And then we'll either ship you somewhere else or you can sit down. But Nick Foles, for those Eagles, kind of showed you why he was going to be a good pro. The New England Patriots were a dominant team. He didn't beat a shitty Patriots team. Or he didn't do it alone, but we give up on these guys so quick because Nick Foles wasn't the answer. It was going to be a problem. Everybody was like, what are you going to do now? Nick Foles fucking won all the playoff games, made sure the team could make the playoffs, pulled off, had a hell of a Super Bowl performance. That's not a Trent Dilfer, the defense, or not even Trent Dilfer, Peyton Manning, the defense won this game, Super Bowl. Wentz was a first-round pick. He was the shiny new toy. Nobody cared about Nick Foles. I feel the same way about what's the kid in San Francisco? Oh, I can't think of his name for the life of me. Somebody tell me the quarterback's name in San Francisco. Come on, help me out. Can't think. Why can't I think of his name? People love saying it. Bro, no, it's up with the B. Anyway, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick chosen. Every time that kid throws an incomplete pass, everybody's like, well, now you see why he was picked last. Like, Jesus Christ. So mean. Thank you, Brock Purdy. Thank you so much. And it's interesting that he doesn't get the same leash for error. And it feels like he's just not the sexy pick. If you are the money conscious football team, and that's the way everybody wants to watch sports now, like they're all the owners, Brock Purdy is the greatest quarterback of all time. He sells jerseys. He's pretty consistent at the position. Pretty good from what I've seen. He's been to the Super Bowl before he got hurt. They probably were going to go to the Super Bowl again. But people are like, maybe he just doesn't have it. I don't know. It's a little small. A little small? Bryce Young was a first-round draft pick. Kyler Murray was the first pick overall, and he weighs about 170 pounds. I don't know if small is his problem. His problem is where he was drafted. After the 1983 quarterback draft, and we've talked about this on the show before, how many quarterbacks were taken in 1984 in the first round? Does anyone know? Anyone? Bueller? Nobody knows? 0. 0 quarterbacks were taken in the first round of 1984. That doesn't mean no one came out that year. 2 notable names from 1984 that are drafted. Steve Young goes to the USFL as a first-round pick. And Boomer Esiason is a second-round pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. Thank you, Ken. 0. No quarterbacks taken. I can't think of a year in the last 15 where there's not a quarterback taken in the first. It's a glory position, it's a glamour position, and all this stuff is part of the machine in a way that it wasn't before. There's an ESPN documentary on the 83 draft that's really interesting for a guy like me because, again, my favorite quarterback, my favorite player of all time comes out that year. And as a football fan, you just have to marvel at that first round. My goodness, the amount of Hall of Fame talent that comes out that year. That being said, that draft is held in like a hotel conference room. I think maybe ESPN covered it, but it just wasn't a big deal. The draft used to come on super early in the morning. Well, for me, because I'm a West Coast guy, or a little later, but still. Not a big deal. The combine, nobody saw it. Didn't even know it existed. And now they sell tickets for the combine. And a lot of those metrics that you see people acting like they care about at the combine, they know all those metrics already. Those bra-looking things that the players wear, that's tracking everything they're doing during a game. So they know something even better than what their 40 time is at the combine. They know how fast they are late in games. They can see how quick they break out of routes. All the things that you want to know about a player, you already know. That's just to sell tickets. That's to keep football on the mind. That's so pundits can keep a narrative going. It's just part of the sausage making. I find it all really interesting. Because even have bad combine performance, even if the coaches already know what you're going to do, they even go to the pro days now. They already know how you're going to perform. They already know they want you. But man, you see oh, well, I don't know. So-and-so's not throwing at the combine. Is that going to hurt his draft stock? No. Not at all. A deal was already made for so-and-so and said team. I don't know. So all the pundits, all the scouts, all the people that said Sam Darnold was a bust and Derek Carr was never that good and Malik Willis was never going to be good. Man, those guys look really bad right now. I've said on this show, watch Darnold at USC. USC wasn't a super dominant team when he was there. They were kind of like, They were kind of getting back from the post Pete Carroll shit. And he's really good. I was like, wow, this guy's got quick feet. He can run if he needs to. He's got great size. He makes all the throws. And he went to where quarterbacks go to die. The Jets won Super Bowl. And was it 68? The Namath Super Bowl? Name me a great Jets quarterback outside of Joe Namath. And statistically, but let's not judge him through the statistical lens that we have from this era, right? Let's judge him for when he played. It's a little different. Let's be a little honest with that. So for his era, there was a time where Joe Namath put up some pretty good numbers. But the Jets have been to one Super Bowl. That's it. They've tried. I read a statistic on the Jets. There was a game in 1980 where they played the San Francisco 49ers, and their quarterback, Richard Todd, threw for like 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and a loss. Like a 42-27 loss to the Niners. Just wasn't that good. And they wanted to get rid of Todd, and they got Kenny O'Brien, really good quarterback. Has some pretty good receivers. Remember Al Toon? Remember Johnny Lamb Jones? Remember Freeman McNeil? The Jets defense in the 80s, Mark Gastineau, Joe Klecko. That's a good team. Damn, the Jets sound like the football Celtics. All them white people. But seriously. Someone said Pennington. Chad Pennington was okay, but poor guy. Hurt his shoulder real bad. Herm was a coach. Lou Holtz coached there for 5 minutes and just destroyed that team and then left back to the college ranks. We can start naming off quarterbacks that went to New York and that was it for them. Tony Eason, Boomer Esiason. Who else went to New York and that was it for them? Vinny Testaverde. No, he had some. Actually, Vinny Testaverde had some really good years for the Jets. The Jets might have been the rehab to his career as a number 1 draft pick. They got a second chance. I mean, he went to a really bad Buccaneers team. He was with the Buccaneers when they were just perpetually awful. Oh. Name me one person that played with Vinny Testaverde that isn't Leroy Selman. I think that was towards the end of his career. New Yankees. Richie Kotite coached the Jets. Richie Kotite did coach the Jets. Yikes. But he went to the Jets. Sam Darnold went to the Jets. Jets didn't have it. He got his head beat in. And they were like, you know what our future is? This kid out of BYU, Zach Wilson. He's got all the tools. He's got all the tools, Tommy. He can run. He can throw real far. He's whiter than Sam. So he gets jettisoned off. He bounces around. Because at that point, anything you do bad, people go, told you. Look at him. Yeah, we traded him, and he's got to learn a whole new system and meet new people in 4 days and start. But he's a bust. I kept saying, if he got an opportunity. And then when he went to Minnesota, I was like, that's a great opportunity. And what did Minnesota do? They drafted a quarterback that you've heard Mac and I say over and over again, we think is highly overrated. He was going to be the starter. And you were hearing reports out of camp from the receivers going, Sam, you can tell he's a veteran. He knows how to put a little more on it if he needs to, but he can take a lot off if he needs to. He's just. Am I talking about Sam Darnold or Puffy? Stop. But seriously, they're like, JJ is a rookie and he's got a great arm and he wants to throw it 100 miles an hour every time. But Sam kind of understands the nuances and blah, 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 blah. And how true is it? It's only been 3 weeks. They could lose every other game. Collapses happen in all sports. But this 3 weeks, the Vikings beat the 49ers. Good team. Even without Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers are a really good team. I didn't know if they were going to be able to handle the Texans. I knew they had a pretty good defense, but I was like, are they good enough to handle the Texans? Because CJ Stroud is the real deal. They beat the Texans head in. The Vikings are for real. The Vikings-Lions is going to happen twice this year. Wow, those are going to be great games. Jared Goff led the Los Angeles Rams to one of the most boring Super Bowls I've ever seen in my life. What was the final score of that game? Like 13-6? Oh, that game was boring. But Jared Goff was lighting up the NFC that year. They were fun to watch. Todd Gurley, Robert Woods. Goff throws a very, very pretty deep ball, in my opinion. And man, does he have pinpoint accuracy. Sean McVay was like, you know who my guy is? Matt Stafford. He knows what I want. He knows how I like it. And they sent Jared Goff to quarterback purgatory. Detroit. When we think about these places that we jokingly call like quarterback purgatory, these are places that just don't win. It's like Talia Shire and Rocky. You can't win! I feel like that's what God tells the Detroit Lions. You can't win! And the Detroit Lions are the favorite coming out of the North. The NFC North is going to be rather entertaining. The Thanksgiving game is always like the Lions. Everyone's like, oh, God, the Lions on Thanksgiving. Oh. Maybe we'll see Barry Sanders do something great, but the Lions. Oh. Now it's like, the Lions are really good. They got a good young defense. They got an exciting offense led by this guy that got let go when he's still young. He can still be the future of your team. But we decided that, they didn't win that Super Bowl. He's just trash. Players got hurt the next year. He didn't perform well. He's no Matt Stafford. And they make the trade. Man, the Rams win the Super Bowl. And it looks like that trade made sense. Jared Goff went to quarterback purgatory. And Matt Stafford won a Super Bowl. Now Jared Goff is playing for a team that I think can be a perennial contender for at least the next 4 to 5 years. And I don't know how much longer Matt Stafford has in the NFL. I'm surprised he's playing this long. He's got to be knocking on 40. And they did get a very close win against the San Francisco 49ers. They're playing decent football, to admit. Derek Carr. I'm a Bay Area native. I've heard all the complaints about Derek Carr forever. That last name is an albatross around that young man's neck. And if you think that he didn't try to come into the league to redeem his brother, you are sadly mistaken. He's tried. It's not his fault. I don't think he's that bad. That was a great comeback by the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Saints. Great comeback. Derek Carr does not play defense. The Saints could possibly win that division behind Derek Carr, a guy that was a cast-off. Not a first-round pick. I thought he was a first-round talent come out of Fresno State. Put up crazy numbers. But again, he had the last name. His brother owns the record for the most sacks in a season. He doesn't just own the record. He holds the top. Out of the top 3 years of the most sacked quarterback, his brother is 1 in 3. That man got beat the fuck up in Houston. Just beat up. And by the time a regime was in, it was like, damaged goods. We got to get our guy in. No one wants to deal with the reclamation project. You're not ruining my chance at a big contract. And he was shipped off to backup roles and maybe some spot starts here and there. But it's really hard to get a Sam Darnold situation where your first round shine is gone and you bounce around from a few teams as a backup and you get a situation like Minnesota where everything falls into place. Number one, you're playing with one of the most dynamic receivers in the game. You actually have like two really dynamic receivers, and you have a really good running game, and you have a good defense, and you have an offensive-minded coach, and your team drafted a quarterback who happened to blow out an ACL, I think it was, so you can miss the whole season. So you have no one breathing down your neck, and there's no fans going, oh, put JJ in. We want to see the future. I want the new thing. If there's any Raider fans watching right now, the biggest story of this type player is Jim Plunkett. Bay Area dude. Yee. Goes to Stanford, wins a Heisman, gets drafted by the Patriots. They're trash. He gets the shit beat out of him. He gets traded. Did he go right to the Niners? There's the Niners for a while. Not good Niners. Gets beat up over there. This guy's trash. I don't even know if he gets traded to the Raiders or they just pick him up, but he gets the Raiders somehow. And in split duty, because he's running split duty, he wasn't like the starter overall. It was split duty with Mark Wilson, I think. They win a Super Bowl in 1980 against the Philadelphia Eagles. And they go back in 83. And they beat the Redskins behind Marcus Allen and like 190-yard performance. But Jim Plunkett was the person that all of the Raider fans wanted to see start. They didn't want to see Mark Wilson start. We didn't give a damn about that guy. We want to see Plunkett. He wasn't even in the Bay. He won one. I think they were in 80 there in Oakland by the time they won in the 82 season there in LA. But still, that's their guy. He embodies to them what they think the Raiders are. The autumn wind is a Raider. He's a cast off. He's brown. I believe he's the first native, if I'm not mistaken, to win a Super Bowl. He's part native, if I'm not mistaken. But it's not like we don't have a history of people's idea of busts being pretty damn good. And I'm not saying everybody that's a bust is a Super Bowl quarterback. We have proof of people that just, for various reasons, didn't have their head on straight. That's usually what a lot of it is. For me, Todd Marinovich is a bust, a letdown, a guy that should have been great and wasn't. And in his own words, he'll tell you, my head wasn't on straight. I was spun out of my mind half the time. I had a weird upbringing with my pop. And, that just didn't work out for me. Now, I don't know if you guys know this. Marinovich is a quarterback coach for youth players. I'd send my kid to Todd Marinovich. He understands the game. He definitely understands the mechanics. He just didn't. He'll tell you, I didn't have it between the years at the time because I was too busy getting high and want to do all the other things. But all the other physical tools I had, I just was too concerned about getting high. That's a different story. Jamarcus Russell, right? Everybody has heard the story about the coach asking him if he watched the DVD, the blank DVD of the other teams for the plays to get ready for the game, and he said, "Yeah, I watched it," and he's like, "It was blank." You know, those people exist. They have happened. I don't think everybody is that person. And I think we give up on these cats way too quick because there is an instant gratification element in this current epoch, and we have to kind of accept. I watch because again I don't have TV, so like ESPN uploads the hot takes on their shows, and there was some hot take on Caleb Williams where one of the pundits said that they felt he was the biggest bust they'd ever seen in their life. I was like, the kid's played 3 games in the NFL. I have a friend, hopefully he's watching this. He's going to yell at me about this later. And he said, I watched the preseason games and I thought Caleb Williams was going to be so good, but I got the all 22 and he just doesn't have it. And I was like, what do you mean? You can't be serious. He goes, I watched the all 22. He doesn't have it. I was like, look, dude, I didn't. But you know what I saw? I saw him make some good throws. He threw for 350, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. For me, that's a good line for a dude in his third start that's figuring it out. He's figuring it out. I don't know what you think he's supposed to be. Go look at the lines of all these dudes this year. Look at Mahomes' line. His line was trash. He threw for like 180. I think he had a couple picks. Why is he so great? The ball's not bouncing this kid's way today. Give it time. He's still doing the things. He still has, I don't want to say intangibles because that makes it seem like magical qualities, but he still has this ability. If you watch a guy like Caleb Williams play, for me, this is why I think he's a first round talent. Watch him in college, even playing from the shotgun. As the pocket would collapse, he would either climb up if need be, roll out if need be, but he never panicked. He's got this frightening cool under pressure where he would deliver pinpoint throws as everything's crumbling around him. There's only one other young player I've seen do that, and that's Shador Sanders. Insane poise. And these guys, it's almost like they have eyes in the back of their head that they can kind of move out of trouble. Some of the stuff, again, you can get away with in college. You can't get away with in the pros. Sometimes you can just always outrun people chasing you in college, and pros is a little different. That'll come with time, right? They'll stop looking for the bigger play and take the check downs. That'll come with time. And some of the interceptions that happened to Caleb Williams were just great plays. Again, this is the NFL. These are some athletic sons of bitches you're playing against. This isn't Louisiana Northwest Tech State. Everybody can jump real high, run real fast. And when I watched those interceptions on Caleb Williams, I was like, well, those are some athletic plays. Those are some great plays. Why can't we say these are great plays by the defense? Both things can be true. But that's not a great narrative, right? That's not what gets people to click. and a comment and a bet on the over under on the interceptions he's gonna he's gonna throw. I'm not. I think I said this with Mac last time. Like I saw Bo Nix play. I've seen the 3 games. In the first 2 games, he looked like a deer in the headlights. He looked like dejected. I'm not the biggest fan of always taking people that have never experienced loss in their life because it's going to be hard for them. Also, to be around like adults that are okay with losing is going to be hard for them to wrap their mind around. And they might be little assholes. I love that story Michael Jordan tells about like when he first came to the Bulls and dudes were drinking, drinking by halftime, like smoking cigarettes, shit. It's like, what the what? What? It's a different game, man. Watching that game against the Buccaneers, I didn't even bother to get to the bar early to see it. I figured it was going to be a blowout. So I handled some work stuff. By the time I got there, the bar manager is a Bucks fan. And he looked at me, and I got Broncos stuff on. He looks at me and he goes, "You're killing us." I was like, "Are you fucking with me, dude?" He goes, "No, look at the score." And I was like, and I watched like the second half of that game, and it was just Bo Nix looks so confident. The coaches figured something out. I got to give the Broncos props. When the Dolphins scored 70 on them, 70. Sestenta. Setenta. I always say 70 wrong in Spanish. That's a big fucking number to put on somebody. When you score 70 in an NFL game, that's some Harlem Globetrotter level shit. They put 70 on the Broncos. And Vance Joseph didn't get fired. Van Jones. I hope Van Jones gets fired. Vance Joseph didn't get fired. And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, going to stick with him. And this defense, damn good defense in Denver. It's a damn good defense. It's given up 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks. That's a damn good defense. 2 legitimately good teams, the Steelers and the Bucks. That's a good defense. I'm glad you didn't fire your D coordinator. But that's the knee-jerk reaction for everybody in this. You know, I want what I want when I want it. What have you done for me? We have to win now. Kind of world. I'm going to fire the D coordinator. It's all his fault. And people look confident. They didn't bench the tight end that dropped all those passes in Pittsburgh. He made some big catches in the game. Sometimes people have off days. You don't have to do fucking a whole segment on your fucking show about how so and so sucks because they dropped a ball or Bryce Young is a bust. His confidence is shot. Huh. You don't say. You don't say his confidence is shot. And then there's always this juxtaposition if a rookie is doing well. So Jaden Daniels, who didn't have all the, even as a Heisman winner, didn't have all the hoopla around him like Caleb. They're both transfer guys. Jaden Daniels went from Arizona State to Louisiana State, wins a Heisman at LSU. I don't know if he deserved it, but still he won a Heisman at LSU. I didn't even think LSU was all that great. But watching this kid in the pros, he's kind of fun to watch. And you can tell what's going on. Here's your 2 reads, high and low. You don't see him, run. That's what he's doing. He's getting first downs. If the throw is there, he's, for the most part, he's making it. There was no punts and no interceptions in that game against the Cincinnati Bengals. That was a fun game to watch. Jaden Daniels went into a situation that's very different than all these other guys, even though the Redskins picked so early. There's a regime change going on. There's some good anchor pieces, some foundational pieces on that team you can build around. And they're not asking him to do a whole lot. If you don't see it, run. Now, you can't do that forever. But right now, it's working out. We'll see where he ends up in the season. But again, some of the greatest quarterbacks, I don't know if we talk about them in the same way in this current era because a lot of them didn't win Super Bowl. Jim Kelly never won a Super Bowl. He went to 4 in a row, never won. John Elway went to 3 in a row, never won. Tony Eason went to 1, and no one really talks about him. Those guys are Hall of Famers. People, Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Yeah, he never won a Super Bowl. Does that matter? But he's still one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I don't like the way we look at these young people and just they're disposable widgets that they don't do what you want them to do in 5 minutes. And then it's like, well, away with you. Get a new one. Damn. We used to give people time. You no longer have time. Which is weird because there's a short list of guys that have come into the league and actually looked really good right off the bat. Short list. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if you went to a team that was trash. And now they're winning a couple games. Nobody cares. Don't care. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. We need to make punditry into a pejorative. I can dig that. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like politically, too. Oh, get me fucking started on that. I really don't think sports betting has anything to do with this topic. I do. Sports betting is insane. And people aren't just betting on the game itself. It's every aspect of the game. Every aspect of the game. Caleb Williams looks like Ice Cube's son. He does kind of look like a skinnier version of that. So sad seeing Tua come out of an NFL game like he's been in Dana White's power slap. Okay. I don't know why I watch highlights of that because I hate it. I hate everything about it. Let me take a desperate person that thinks they're tough and just let them get their fucking head beat in for a couple of bucks. If UFC fighters aren't making gajillions of dollars, you think slap fighters are making real money? Fuck out of here. And there's like multiple slap leagues too. Gee, there's no art to that. And then Dana White sits and goes, "Oh, this kid's tough." Shut the fuck up. Trying to make it seem like toughness is what this is all about. It's really not. Getting the shit slapped out of you doesn't make you tough. Makes you a punching bag. and a CTE candidate and possibly deaf because you're slapping the shit out of people's eardrums. Does not, and that shit, oh, the back and forth. Have you ever seen they get all woozy? You can see the fucking birds and stars circling their heads. And if they don't fall down, it's like, do it again. I want more. It's like, man, this is some derivative ass bullshit. Like, I really like fighting when they knock people the fuck out senseless. So, can we get to a sport where there's no strategy and skill and it's just people getting knocked out senseless? Like, they can't defend themselves. I don't want to see defense. Or we can have a sport where people just slap the shit out of each other. Oh, perfect. It's awesome. Yeah. Put it on. You think sports betting is yes. It's legal. It's totally different now. And again, I think you're looking at it from the perspective of just the line of the game and not other over unders and all the other prop bets. Rick James should have licensed his slapping. Oh my god. You people are mean. That's insane, dude. That there's a slap fighting league. Bare knuckle fighting to me is like pretty scary. Because when you see the after of that, those people are just beat to hell. And I haven't seen, and I'm sure I haven't seen all the bare knuckle fights, but all the ones I've seen, and I haven't seen a lot, they do not end in a decision. Somebody, two men enter, one man leave. It's just Thunderdome. That shit's kind of scary. That slap fighting shit is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Don't do it. Don't watch it. Someone said, "Are you not entertained?" I'm not entertained. I'm going to watch the games Sunday, and everyone's going to talk about Bryce Young getting benched and who's the next fluke of this last class. If Caleb Williams doesn't win, if the Bears don't win, and he doesn't look like fucking Dan Marino in his fourth start, he's a bust. That talk does affect the players. Do you guys remember when Vince Young was trying to kill himself because Merrill Hodge was talking shit? We talked about this the other week with Mac. Because Merrill Hodge wouldn't just, oh, Vince Young isn't a good quarterback. Just fucking with him. He's watching it. And Vince Young is of an older generation. You think these kids that are this brand conscious aren't following what pundits are saying about him and it's not affecting their confidence? They're trained at very young ages to say, you know, I don't really follow what people say. I just ignore. I just do it. And players and my teammates, I'm just here for my teammates to be a good teammate. They know. I haven't heard a young player say a bad thing in years. That's just not how they're wired anymore. And this new crop that's already brand conscious in the at the high school level, I don't know what we're going to see when these kids don't make it. I'm really worried about. We're going to see how mentally tough young Bryce Young is. I hope things work out for the young man. Because it's real hard to give a cast off another chance. Again, Sam Darnold and Geno Smith fell into really good situations. Geno Smith went to a Seattle team where I think his first year he was behind Russell. Then he got a chance to start as a bridge guy and just did well. And now he's the guy in Seattle for the foreseeable future. Darnold has got a chance to start, but they drafted J.J. McCarthy with the first pick. Do you really think they're going to trade J.J. McCarthy? Or are they going to get rid of Sam Darnold, who's on a 1-year contract? Sam Darnold's going to walk. If the Vikings go to the playoffs and do well in the playoffs, make some noise, oof. Sam Darnold can get a starting gig. Where? Don't know. But he can. And it might be, back to what got him in trouble in the first place. You're going to go to a team that's trash. Don't know. But I'm enjoying watching him and Malik Willis and Jared Goff and Derek Carr win. Because it goes against all the horrible shit these people say about them over and over and over again, just to fill time. That being said, who is going to watch the Puffy documentary? It's Friday on Tubi. Have I heard about the UNLV quarterback? I watched that game. Kid's pretty exciting. SF avoided sunk cost fallacy by trading away Trey Lance. What? No one remembers Trey Lance. He was supposed to be the future of San Francisco. It was not supposed to be Brock Purdy. Trey Lance may still be a decent quarterback. I don't know. He may have been an overhyped pick. I think he might be more of an overhyped pick than that does happen as well. Going to get Tubi for that Puffy documentary. It's free. Oh, I didn't know the quarterback was sitting out over NIL money dispute. Are there going to be more NIL money disputes in college football? I don't know. Maybe. Prester John says that Wham shirt is extra snake bad. Thank you very much. Who doesn't love this Wham album? If you don't love this Wham album, there's a hole in your soul. If you don't love Wham, there's a hole in your soul. This is true as well. Hood slapboxing was quite the event back in '87. That was a line in an Ice Cube song. Nigga slapboxing in the street. Even slapboxing in the street was like, I'm not going to punch you and we're going to do this with slaps. But we're still moving and defending ourselves, right? And countering. No, there's none of that in this. It's just I'm going to stand there and go, Arr! And you slap the shit out of me. And if I fall, I guess I'm a bitch. Like, how are you a bitch if you fall? Like, seriously. There was one, I think we showed it in the champagne room. And the the comment or the thing over it was like she got slapped into the, what do they call it? Where Ant-Man is. Whatever realm that is, they said she got slapped into that realm. I can't even think of the name. The shadow realm. She got slapped into the shadow realm. This woman got slapped so hard. And she had like all the and the tattoos and like all the things that go with a person that's going to go into a slap fighting competition. She's like a faux hawk. Caged ears, a pierced chin, all this just goofy shit. And then somebody just slapped the shit out of her. Because that's what's going to happen to you. You're just standing there. You're going to get hit and you may get knocked out. I don't think you're a bad fighter for that. I don't think you suck at life because you stood still and someone hit you. Your head was, your neck was the T. And somebody got to fucking swing away. The hold sign wasn't on. Swing away. They knocked that woman so far back in time. Jesus. She did a backflip. That was kind of funny. She did a backflip. And I'm reading the comments because you people that write comments are pretty fucking funny. And I'm just cracking up at every comment because I'm a horrible person. And the woman that got slapped responds. And she said, this was the worst moment in my life. And you people just want to make fun of it. And I was just like, oof. And I was like, is that really her? And you click the thing and it's her, right? She's doing something totally different with her life. She's like selling real estate or some shit. Like after you lose a slap fight competition, you can't go into the UFC. What are you going to do after that? There's not much for you to do. You can't work at UPS after you lost a slap fight competition. Don't listen to Biggie. Everybody's laughing at you. She come here. She come here. You get to work and they all just fall out like you. Like, oh, it's horrible. All you can do is try to sell real estate after that. I knock them out with a great deal. It's not. You can't go back to slap fighting. You can't train for slap fighting. There's no Rocky montage training scene for slap fighting. Fucking, that's the goofiest shit ever. I felt bad after I read that comment. She was like, "That was the worst day of my life." I was like, yeah. And it's a viral moment on the internet. Like, this is pretty bad. This is really bad. Like some of those, have you ever seen those boxing highlights where it's an ESPN fight and the guy the dude was supposed to fight didn't make it and they give like $100 to some cat who has no business getting in the ring and that person just gets just obliterated in the first round by an actual boxer? That's bad too, but that's not as bad as losing in a slap fight competition. Because at least in that, you see comments like, well, at least he was man enough to get in the ring. Like, still. Was it man enough or was it desperation? Because I don't know if these guys are like, hey, you. Yeah. And they like take off their shirt and they're like, I'm man enough to get in the ring. Or is it more like, oh man, they towed my car. My baby mama can't work. She got to take care of Epiphany. And, my parents can't help me out because they're struggling too. They told me they'd give me $500 to get my head beat in and it'd be over by the first round. So guess I'm going to try to do my best. I think it might work a little more like that. Justin Fields is balling too. Yeah. Justin Fields was another guy, right? They were like, this guy just doesn't have it. He's not an NFL quarterback. He can't do the things. I was like, he came out as a rookie and he was running all over the place and you guys were loving him. He was a highlight machine. I wouldn't say he goes where quarterbacks go to die, but he goes where quarterbacks go to be. That's going to be a conversation for if Justin Fields ends up being a really good pro. That's going to be one of those conversations forever. What if Chicago would have kept him and Caleb Williams doesn't go to Chicago and they trade that pick or whatever, they take something else that they need. An offensive lineman, perhaps. And Justin Fields stays and they really build something with Fields. Am I following the SF mayoral race? A little bit. And I think London Breed may win again. If she doesn't, I think she'll lose to the slightly more conservative rich guy. But she's not going to lose on policy. She's going to lose on a perception of failure. And where I don't think she's a good mayor and I don't like her as a mayor, she's really freaking tough on crime. So if your concern in San Francisco is homeless people running amok, they broke in my car again, which, look, I get it. But you can't say that that's not what she's all about. She gets so excited to fuck with homeless people and arrest the youth. Uh-oh, we got a Steelers fan has entered the chat. Steelers fan here. I don't think Fields is it. Jason, before I address, I accidentally hit this, by the way. Jason, my downstairs neighbor left me a note complaining about noise. He called me a dipshit. Should I confront him or let him go to prevent escalation? Real talk. I think you better let it go. Let it go. Fuck him. Fuck him right up the ass. Like, not in that cool way where it's consensual and totally fucking a scene from Penitentiary. Fuck them. Like, seriously. I don't know how thin your walls are, dude. And I don't know what you're doing in there. If you're laughing and someone's mad at you for laughing, tell them to turn their fucking TV up, put on fucking earbuds. I don't know. But fuck them. I lived in a music studio. And it's not like every sound that came out of the walls I thought was beautiful fucking music. There's a lot of shit I fucking hate. True story. I don't know how you're going to feel about this, Andrew. I don't know if you care. I'm going to tell you anyway because it's my show and I can. This poster right here is a picture taken by the now late Glennie Telford. Glennie Telford played guitar in a band called Skin Lab, and Glennie had some issues with drugs. Glennie was no longer in Skin Lab, and he had a room adjacent to mine, and Glennie had a massive sound system. I won't tell everything about Glennie, but Glennie used to smoke DMT every day. And he would take these pictures. So that picture right there is a self-portrait of Glennie. He screamed and he would smoke DMT and he would take his camera and he'd throw it in the air. And that's what it captured. Glennie took, you can't really see it because there's like a lot of glare, but he took this picture, which ended up being like, I think on the inside of this record for us. Nice guy, cool dude. Didn't give a shit about noise. And he was a 365 some bitch. I remember it was Christmas one day. And me and my ex, Chicky, were in the studio and it was quiet because it was finally closed on Christmas. Like nobody was stirring, not even a rat. The homeless people were outside playing with cats. It was like finally quiet. And I would get like PTSD. I'd tense up whenever I heard the door open because I knew who it was. It was Glenny. He was going in his room because there was like this one door from the street that we would get in through our side. It's kind of like a secret side of the place. And he had this massive sound system. And this was his story. I think I could tell this story. He said he would come in and he would play 3 Gojira songs at an obscenely loud volume. Obscenely loud. To the point where if the studio was open when he would be there, if you were in a room on the public studio side, he would affect your practice. So he would he had a system that could have powered a couple hundred seat club. So he turned the Gojira song up, and then he had his amp set up. He had like an old fucking 90s, like a 2000s rack set up. And he played 3 Gojira songs. That was it. That's all he had in him. And he'd get done. And that'd be it. That would be it for him for the day. But it would just be so fucking jarring and unnecessarily loud and annoying. And one day I was like, why do you do this? Why do you come? Like, you're not in a band. You're not trying out for a band. What's the deal, dude? Like, why do you even pay for this room? He goes, before I joined Skin Lab, I really wanted to join Skin Lab. And I had a dream that I joined Skin Lab. So I had a dream that I joined Gojira. I met him. I know him. So I'm practicing for when I get that call. Okay. All right. I okay. Sure. They called him Glenn Jira. There's a bunch of goofy nicknames they had for the guy. And sadly, he passed away a few years ago. But every fucking day. And one day we had words, and it was kind of unnecessary. And Chris Contos took me aside, who actually came on the show and was like, look, dude, this is where the fuck you wanted to live. And this is what it is. I know a few people live here, but it's just what it is. Either you're going to be cool or you're not going to be cool. I was like, all right, well, fair enough. After living in that environment, it takes a lot to really irritate the shit out of me when it comes to noise. My neighbor over there has these dogs that he never brings inside, and those motherfuckers bark all the time. There's rabbits that run around here, and they just bark like crazy. Oh, but so what? Give a shit. Turn my TV up. I'll put headphones on. I'll go in my room, and then I can't hear the fucking dogs anymore. Give a fuck. Fuck that guy. And that guy ain't mad at you. There's another thing. He's not mad at you. He's mad at so much other shit that ain't you. You're going to be the reason. But then that's uncomfortable, right? You go down there like, hey, you got a problem with me? And he's got to be tough, and both of y'all got to be tough. I don't know where you stay. I don't know if you stay in one of them neighborhoods where toughness ends in a bad way. It ain't worth it, man. Fuck it. It's never working. It's never fucking worth it. Someone says, oh shit, I know Skin Lab. Yeah, there you go. Glenny was in Skin Lab. If you listen to really old episodes when we were doing it in the studio, you can hear the band A Story So Far rehearsing because there would be bleed through. We tried to have microphones and we had these mics that only go in one direction, but there were so many of us in the room, but you could hear a little bit of the music. Sometimes I miss that, but overall, regular people fucking noise is pleasant. There's two young people that live next to me and they watch movies every so often and stuff like that. It's like, I don't give a shit. It's a little loud. I don't care. Good. I'm reading these comments. Reviewers like, wait, no way. Yes, it's a true story. I wouldn't make this stuff up. Oh, the neighbor woke you up at 2 a.m. because he was crying and screaming like a baby. Yeah, a lot of that shit fucking sucks, man. We had a lot of that. Again, I lived in the studio where one day there was this dude playing and it sounded like Santana. And I just didn't want to hear noise. I thought no one was going to be in the stage room, and this dude was in the stage room. I was like, "Oh fuck, is this guy, man?" It sounded like Santana. And there was this collapsible wall that would separate like our kind of secret half of the place that we would put up and the part that was open to the public. And so I walked in the wall. This guy built a door so you can walk through it. This place is like Willy Wonka if Willy Wonka was like methed out of his mind. And I walked through the door, and there's this man, and he's just like kind of doing some Santana shredding away. It just reminded me of Santana. And he's playing through an amp that I didn't think he would play. It's like a metal amp. It's called the JCM 900. And I always thought of the 900 as like a metal amp. And this man, like, you know what Santana sounds like Black Magic Woman kind of Santana. And he's an older Latin man, and we're talking, and I was like, huh, you like this amp for that? You think it's that versatile? And we're talking about settings and and it turns out it was Santana's brother. He played in a band called Malo. He died not too long ago. I didn't feel like hearing it at the time, but he ended up being a decent cat. We had a nice little chat over that. But that would happen more often than not, that somebody was playing music at an ungodly hour that I didn't want to hear. But then I also played music that nobody wanted to hear at an ungodly hour. So to quote Goodfellas, fuck them in the ear, fuck them in the other ear. That's kind of how I feel about noise and shit. Oh, it was Dan. Preston John says Malo was badass. Those are people that would practice in this room, and it would be like so loud. And that room bled right into my room. But then sometimes it's cool, right? If you're in the mood for it, it's like, damn, these motherfuckers is jamming. You know who else used to practice in that room all the time? Lenny Williams. You're still a young man. That was kind of fun. But still, if you don't feel like hearing it, you don't feel like hearing it. Right? All the Tower of Power would be there sometimes. Like, I just don't feel like hearing this shit right now. I want to have normal people problems. Ever heard the Latin song Trump posted? No. Are you being serious, Joe Lamite? Trump posted a song? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I heard decent music last night. I kind of like, was that Slim Jesus? Yeah, dude. I don't want to hear that shit. And if someone leaves you a note, just take a deep breath in and let that shit go. That's the most passive aggressive bullshit ever. Unless I have something of yours or for whatever reason, that's the only time you leave a note to me. Like, oh, the mailman came and delivered a package, and I thought someone would steal it, so I have it, so nobody would steal it. If you need it, just come knock on my door. Joel Might says, Dan ass. The video's on his YouTube. It's hilarious. I'm not going to watch it. My YouTube feed is already fucked up from all these video essays. I refuse to watch a Trump video. Is he singing in the video? Who doesn't feel like Tower of Power as a soundtrack to daily life? Says Coconut in the Corn. The same person just doesn't want to hear it. Third Eye Blind. So I lived in Third Eye Blind's old room. And next to me, so it's a weird setup. I wish I could show you guys the setup. I don't even know what it looks like anymore because the owner, again, in Willy Wonka, like, I'm going to take this room down now and build a bigger room. Me. So I have no idea what the place looks like now, but it was Glenny behind me, and I shared a wall with Dave Lopez of Flipside. And Dave would share the room with Orion from Third Eye. And sometimes when they would get together for their things, the singer from Third Eye's he does Third Eye Blind, and the other guys do something. And then the owner was friends with, I think he even played a band with like the Counting Crows, one of the dudes from Counting Crows. So those cats would be there sometimes. But when they would rehearse the Third Eye Blind shit, I would never want to be home because that stuff gets in your head and it doesn't leave. Good luck getting that shit out of your head because it's rehearsal. You can imagine what a rehearsal sounds like. You're doing the song, someone doesn't start right, or someone forgets a part. It's like, okay, let's do it over again. And I heard everything. If someone broke wind, I heard it. Like you can hear everything, right? Do 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 do. If we found out they were going to rehearse, it was like whatever we have to get the fuck out before they start playing. Because once it starts playing, it's embedded in your head. It's such feel good sounding ass music. I hope Orion is watching. You all wrote some feel good ass songs, Ryan. But god damn, that shit would get stuck in your head. Oh. With an A, Newer Yank. Yeah, the bass player for Third Eye Blind is Orion Salazar. Man. So that I would try to run, like sprint out of there for that. And then there's a band called Annihilation Time that you guys might know that was behind us that shared the room with Glenny. They were really fucking loud. They were good, but they were really fucking loud. Like once they were playing, because we didn't have a television in our little room. We had an iPad mini. So it's like, oh, we got to figure out something else to do now. Nuri says this is worth. Oh. Virtuoso says, I want something else to forget this radio-friendly song. Imagine this over and over. Just, because you're just trying to hurry up and get out of the house. Like, I got to get out of the house. I got to get out of the house. It's going to get stuck in my hand. There's all, yeah. Whatever music you don't want to hear, you're going to hear over and over. And whatever you kind of don't mind hearing, you're going to hear to the point where you probably don't want to hear it anymore. But there's moments where I'm like, oh, I kind of miss living there. And then I remember the rats and all the other bullshit. And I'm like, Like, I can never do this show like this. You guys would be hearing something. There'd be something going on that you would definitely hear that I couldn't stop. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. I want to see AI Trump sing Santana. No, you don't. You totally don't. I don't want to see this Trump video at all. Nobody send it to me either. Be decent humans and don't send it to me. Right now, you guys are the best group of people that I don't know personally, because some of the shit you guys send me, I crack the fuck up on. But don't send me that. If you have this, like the modicum of respect for me, just don't send me any. I just don't care. Don't send me a fucking AI Kamala video. I don't care about that goofy chick either. Just don't send me anything. If Hanson was recording in Steve Albini's studio, he'd leave with 3 black plastic bags. You guys are so mean. I think I've said this before. I'm not a Beatles fan at all. Just never got into them. Don't really dig them. Don't hate them. Just don't dig them. If they're on, I'm not going to be like, oh, fuck the Beatles. I'll just be like, no, it's a Beatles song. And there was a band that came in there. There was a tribute band called the Sun Kings, and I really liked the guy that was the leader of that band. He was so cool, and we would just talk about like gear and he, I think, played like heavier music back in the day, and he was just a cool dude. And one day, I walked in on, because I would play chill music in the front, was I also worked there. I forget to tell you guys, I worked there too. I loved playing jazz in the front, or like Doobie Brothers and shit like that. And one day he goes, oh, I forget the black guy's name for the Doobie Brothers. Something. He got kind of an interesting name. It's not like Johnny. But he goes, oh yeah, so and so was part of one of the tribute things we do for the Beatles. And so they were in the stage room next to me, and I was working that night, so I'm putting everything away at the end of the night. And you kind of got to give it to the Beatles. They did write some really pretty songs. So that was going on kind of behind me all night, and I was trying to ignore it. And I walked back to pick up all the mic stands and the mics and everything. And it's the fucking dude from the Doobie Brothers. I was so starstruck, I couldn't even say hello. And the only thing I could think to say was, "You're the black dude from the Doobie Brothers." And I was too scared to say that. So I think I just like goofily grinned at that man and just went. Like, that's all I could do. Andrew says, I was more of a Led Zeppelin kid. When the levee breaks is how I get to the next dimension. That's a great song. There was some Led Zeppelin tribute bands. I've heard my fair share of Led Zeppelin covers. I'm not a big cover song guy because there's a lot of cover bands. That's people that actually make money. That man thought you were like, hey, they got radio working the front desk over here at the studio. I was just, dude, there's a few people that have walked in there and I'm just like, oh. Try to be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool. The dude that wrote that song, she's a bad man, Gemma. I can't remember that guy's name. He came in there. We fucked with him for a while. There would be people that walk in there and be like, oh. When the Angels were there, I was like, oh. My boyfriend's back and you're gonna be in trouble. Because we were like, who are these old ass fucking ladies? just super calm walking around. And one of the band members like, oh, dude, that's the fucking Angels. That's the chicks from back in the day. Like, damn, they're still doing it. Props. Yeah, that man probably did think I was special. All right. We're going to be back tomorrow night with a more serious show. We'll be talking with Vanessa Willis about the ethical Marx. What does Marx say about ethics? We know what he says about economics. But what does Marx tell us about ethics? So we're going to have a fun conversation. Pascal Robert will be with me, M. Toussaint, and of course our guest, Vanessa Willis, who was supposed to be at the live show in DC and got sick and couldn't make it. So this should be a fun show. And on that note, sorry to bore you guys. Mac said he should be back next week. Let's all say some positive thoughts for Mac as he's trying to heal from these old wounds. And we are